This is the Marconi Baloney Podcast.
Oh, Internet, there you are. Well, welcome to another Baloney Podcast. My name is Marconi Baloney, Rigatoni, Minestrone, Spumoni. Oh, you know, macaroni. You get it. Thank you for checking it out. And I haven't been doing the podcast for a little bit because some not fun life things have been happening. The least of which a breakup between me and my girlfriend. And, you know, it's some days you just don't feel like getting on and talking about it. And this is the place where I would do that. So it's kind of, publicly, it's a little difficult. I kind of, talked about it on my video last week on YouTube. And first of all, I don't really like to talk about stuff that bums me out. And that, definitely did and does. And the good thing, though, is I think, we're going to be friends and everything's cool. And we still chat and text and stuff like that. So, you never know with relationships, especially long-distance relationships. It's kind of crazy. And, of course, I care about my now ex-girlfriend. So weird to say that. Like, I've been through a lot of breakups in my life, but it's still like this one, I could see it coming. But I wasn't really looking forward to it, Many breakups before, I have really looked forward to it. And I'm usually not the guy doing the initiating, even though it may be inside me to be like, yes, I want this to happen. And sometimes you don't want to be the guy because you don't want that guilt of taking that step, even though you may need to, But look, some things work out, some things don't, and I could go through a million relationships for the rest of my life. That's life, I try not to get bummed out about it, and you do have to take time to kind of like get yourself together, if emotionally or whatever. Because if you don't, you're not going to be good for a lot longer time. So you got to actually do. It's like a steps program or something. I talk about a lot of it in my video, so I don't want to go too far into it on the podcast. If you are interested in this subject matter about my breakup, check out my YouTube channel. You know where.
Watch Marconi's daily YouTube videos. Find the YouTube button on MarconiBaloney.com.
Okay, so other stuff happened that really bums me out, and it's hard because some of it I don't really feel at ease talking about it because it's not my personal, like I don't have really the right to do that. But I can tell you the basics of it. Two things. I've been really lucky in my life to, have people that care about me and have taken care of me throughout my, coming up. And becoming an adult and all that kind of stuff. And even when I'm adult, still knowing that you need help once in a while. Excuse me. But there have been some adults in my life that have really made a difference. And one of them passed away. He was a dentist. And I posted this message on Facebook. And, when I first moved to Portland, Oregon, he and his wife, I was dating their daughter at the time, and I was just fired from a job, actually. And I met their daughter. She went to college in Eugene, where I was working, Eugene, Oregon. She was going to U of O. And, I needed a place to stay, and she's like, well, my parents will let you. And I was like, that's weird. Alarms are going off. It's an alarm telling me to do a podcast. I seriously last week completely forgot to do the podcast, and that alarm went off, and I'm like, oh, I can't today. And I didn't want to do one of those lame, hey, I'm really sorry, guys, but I'm not doing a podcast today. I just wanted to, just let it go. And luckily, no one noticed. Okay, so back to the story. So essentially, I moved to Portland not having a job, but knowing that I could probably get some kind of a job if I lived there, and I could stay with my girlfriend. And then, and things were going great. And her family was amazing to me. And I even needed dental work done at the time, and the dentist only charged me for his lab fees because he had to pay the lab fees. But his time and all the stuff that he had, free. Now, and it was really expensive because I had a tooth that came out. My front tooth. He fixed. Just salt of the earth kind of guy, and showed me all around Portland, and things that I found for years were my favorite places, restaurants, things to do, stuff like that I just learned in the first year that I lived there because of him. And he really just made me feel invited and welcomed and part of his family. And they bought me clothes, and they paid for stuff, entertainment, things that I never would ask for. But I would do chores for them and help them around the house and do whatever they needed. But I never expected payment. I just was so grateful. And so I really had a great experience with him. He was kind of like a father figure to me, and he passed away. And it's really sad. He was a young guy. I think he was only maybe 60s or something like that. I don't know, or early 70s, but he did not look it. He looked really young, so you would never expect a guy like that to go. And I don't know. It's very sad, and I stay in touch with the family. I actually do talk to my ex. My ex, if you watch my videos, she was a vet tech, and she is the reason I had Wilhelmina and Little Tiny, my cats. And so I still have that connection, regardless of what happens in our lives, and we're friendly and fine and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so that's sad. And then some more bad news happened. One of my best friends' dad, who is actually a former coworker, his name is Lee Rogers. If you're not from Portland, you may not know him, but he is a radio guy and was brilliant. Like, he was like a boss and wanted to be on the morning radio, and then kind of stepped down just to focus on what he really loved, and that's being on the air. But this guy was a general manager, operations manager, like a bigwig in radio in Seattle and then in Portland. And I got to know him through my friend initially, even though we were both in the same industry. And he knew me and was a fan of what I did, and I knew him and was a fan of what he did. And I got fired one time, and right away my friend said, well, you need to go see my dad. And so I went to his house, and we sat and talked, and this firing was kind of controversial, and it was actually in the news on CNN and National and stuff like that, even though I'm just a dumb DJ. But he was very supportive, and he told me just to hang in there, and kind of just gave, he just had my back. And, before I knew it, I had another job, and, got to work with him and actually filled in for his radio show a few times. And so I was just really sad he died yesterday when this podcast is being recorded. So it's really my friend, it's just crazy to think. I don't know, I grew up without a dad. So when guys lose and I didn't know my dad. I was 3 years old. He died. And so I didn't really grow up. So a lot of these friends and people that I grew up with and stuff, their dads became kind of like my dad. All these different people became fragments of me having a dad. And I always appreciated that. But I can't even imagine what it must be like to have a father and have a relationship as an adult and have them pass away. So I really feel bad for my friend Lee, and I'm just sad because this guy was a great guy, and so that is very sad. then if that weren't bad enough, my former radio partner, if you don't know him, he's been on a few podcasts here. His name is Andy. You might know him better as Tiny. His father had a stroke and is in the hospital, and I believe he can't speak. And this is like a second time this has happened, and it's really, I mean, I feel that he's going to get better, and maybe his health will improve and stuff like that. I'm hoping, that's kind of my kind of positive outlook for him. But all these things happening, and like some of them I knew about last week when I was getting ready to do a podcast or whatever, and then I just couldn't do it. And then I'm like, well, I've got to I feel like maybe explaining like what's going on instead of just doing a regular podcast might be the best thing for me to do today, because you guys always, are cool about listening to my life and whatever's going on. So I really am grateful for the fact that I can do a podcast in this day and age. Like, expressing yourself and doing things that are fun, outside of what I already do for a living, which is fun, is great. You never used to be, like when I first started in radio, when you're off the air, you weren't doing a show. And now I do daily YouTube videos, and I create this podcast every week. And it's so much fun that I get to be in social media. It feels like I'm always playing, I'm always writing jokes. And sometimes it's hard because my job is really fun, and I see all these things happening in my life, and I just need to take a break and step back and enjoy life without a camera or a microphone. And so that is what I'm trying to do with summer, just kind of like take it easy and not go so crazy. Although I am very driven, so it's hard. Like, I don't think I'll ever like really retire. I'll probably always do something, whether it's a video thing or a podcast or whatever, even after I'm not like full-time working on radio. But the cool, because I think it's important, like you got to keep going, and people always talk about hobbies. My hobbies seem to be related to what I actually do for a living, because I chose something that I love so much. But I also know you have to kind of get perspective and take a break, or you'll get burn out, and then like the quality of like my videos aren't funny or my podcasts aren't good, and it's just doing them for the sake of like the responsibility of doing it. But that's life. I mean, anything is a job eventually. No matter what you do and how much you love it, it becomes work, and that's just part of the way things go. I mean, you've got to kind of step back and breathe a little bit and take a little breather. But I have committed for the next 5 years or so to do daily videos, and I don't want to miss a day. So I think that's where I'm at with that. Some days I know on my videos are better than others, but it's a fun process to do. So that's what's going on. So much craziness going on. With all my personal stuff, I haven't even talked about things that are going on in the news, shootings, at schools, and police officers being killed and stuff like that. Casey Kasem is basically being taken off life support, which not really technically that, but they've the doctor is okayed to stop giving him medications and feeding him and all that kind of stuff. So, there's a guy that I grew up, like I talked about in a previous podcast, and one of my first radio jobs was to play his countdown. And so I think it's kind of cool that I've had like the experience I've had with him, but it's also sad because, there's a couple of guys in radio that you've heard of, like Howard Stern, Ryan Seacrest, and Casey Kasem, maybe Wolfman Jack, and that's it. In radio, that's really it. And so it's weird that that one of them two of them, Wolfman Jack and Casey Kasem, will now be gone. So I'm just, that's sad, but I also know, like, that's, everything is life. I just think a lot of death has been happening around me, and it sucks. I hate it. So I think the thing is you just have to keep going in life. You can't let something slow you down and stop you, or make you so depressed that you just kind of drop out of, socializing. all the time, you need to take a break. I mean, I do. I am the kind of person that when I go out and hang with people, it's like I have this feeling of needing to be on, you know? Like when you have a party and then the party's over and your face hurts from smiling so much. That's how I feel, in every day, like being out with people. So, and, moving from Portland, I do my best to connect with people. But when you live somewhere for so long and you get to a certain point in your life, new friends are cool, but they're just not the same, Because the old friends, you don't have to sit and explain yourself all the time. They know you. So, and occasionally you'll meet that special person that like kind of clicks with you. And in a way, like I'll be honest, like my ex and I were like that. Like, and we still have like our little jokes and stuff. So I'm glad that I can be friends with her, even though she's not here. She's in Canada. So, and I think that I just need to not worry so much about making a podcast or a video. I need to like have a life and do things that are fun to be an interesting person. Just no, that sounds dumb. No, not to be an interesting person. Because that would be me thinking that, oh, I need to do these things so I can talk about them on my podcast. See, this is how my brain works. What I need to do is go out and have fun and do things to have fun and do things. And not for any other reason. But it's so hard when you're a person that does videos every day and does a podcast. You're constantly thinking of content. And I think it's really hard to not do it. And I think a lot of YouTubers are the same. They're always like, well, if life is worth living, it's worth recording. I think that's Shay Carl's, like his motto. And that is true. I mean, that's kind of what vlogging is about. But I do think you need to kind of like chill. And that's why like I do Catterday and then like a rewind video on the weekend, because those are basically like I'm sort of doing not a lot, but I'm creating a video, but it's not like I had to create something. It's not that hard. It's more fun. And so those days are like the easy days. And to be honest, vlogging is not a hard thing. And doing videos, it's just the time that it takes. It's a process, you know what I mean? Like the actual parts of it are fun and I enjoy them, but putting it all together and posting it and editing it and coming up with the idea and hoping that it's entertaining somewhat, and that's the parts that are not as fun. Like I hate editing. So, and I've noticed a lot of this, and I try to like give myself notes, and then I always end up doing the same thing. I do not want to always talk about the process of what I do. I think that's boring, and I know some people get interested in it, and because I'm fascinated with process, so sometimes I talk too much about it, and I apologize for that because it's not. I'm trying to be better, and sometimes I just need to babble on the internet, and the fact that you guys are interested and want to hear what I have to say is awesome. So thank you so much for listening. And I think next week's podcast will probably be back to my recently acquired format of the 5 news stories and me trying to be somewhat entertaining talking about them. So thank you both for listening. If you are a supporter and you enjoy my podcast, or are interested in checking out my videos, I have all the links on my website, marconibologna.com, and I have some new merch that I want you guys to check out. It's kind of awesome. I had someone make a logo for taco night, and I think it's pretty cool. I think if you are a taco enthusiast, you might enjoy it. And I just did a video the other day about doing taco night. So with that, I will say goodbye. Check out the link, marconibologna.com, and all the links are on that page. And that'll lead you down my K-holes. That always sounds weird to say. All right, I'll talk to you next time.
Light a candle, turn down the lights, take off your pants, 'cause it's taco night. Pour some red wine, everything will be all right. Throw your cares away, 'cause it's taco night. And while you're eating those tacos, maybe you're thinking about your girl, or maybe your best friend, or nothing in the world. While you're eating your tacos, everything will be alright. Because, girl, it's taco night.
The Marconi Baloney Podcast.